Hi, I'm Laura, and today we're going to talk about nouns, genders, and articles in German. So, nouns in German and English have a couple of things in common. Nouns refer to persons, places, or things, and we can use them together with a definite or indefinite article, such as the book, which would be a definite article, or a book, which would be an indefinite article. There are some differences, however, between German and English. First one being that nouns are always capitalized in German, even if they appear in the middle of a sentence, and nouns in German have a gender. So what does that mean, gender? Well, what it means is that German nouns are classified into three groups: masculine, feminine, and neuter. And while something that is male, physically male, will be represented with a masculine noun, and something that's female will be represented with a feminine noun, that doesn't always apply. Tisch, der Tisch, which is a table in German, is a masculine noun, but there's nothing inherently masculine about a table. So it's important that we just memorize these genders while we're learning our new vocabulary. In order to figure out what the gender is, well, there isn't really any rule, so it's always best to just memorize it, but there are a couple of things that can help you out with some of the genders. For instance, feminine has a lot of cues that can help us. One of them being the suffix in. So, for instance, die Freundin, the female friend, or die Professorin, the female professor. So any noun ending in an in will be feminine. Another cue is the suffix heit, H-E-I-T, such as die Freiheit, the freedom, and die Kindheit, the childhood. We also have Schaft as a suffix, S-C-H-A-F-T, such as die Freundschaft, the friendship, or die Mannschaft, the team. A couple more feminine cues are nouns ending in ung, like die Entschuldigung, the apology, or die Hoffnung, the hope. And our last cue for feminine is a suffix T-A Tät, like die Universität or die Qualität, the university and the quality. One cue that's very reliable for the neuter gender, and that is the suffix CHEN, such as das Mädchen, the girl, or das Brötchen, the roll. Anything ending with a CHEN will be neuter. So articles are the way that we find out gender information on nouns. And each gender has a corresponding definite and indefinite article. So let's take a look first at the definite articles. I recommend that you do all your vocabulary learning with the definite article and the noun together. That's the best way. So the definite article corresponds to the word the in English. And here we see all the definite articles in German. And they're typically referred to as der words because the masculine definite article is der. So for masculine, we have der. For feminine, we have die. For neuter, we have das. And for plural, we also have die. So here we see masculine, der Mann, the man. Feminine, die Frau, the woman. And neuter, das Buch, the book. And in the plural, we can have, for instance, die Bücher, the books. So it's important here to note that regardless of what gender the noun is, the plural will always be die. Okay, so der Mann, the man, but die Männer, the men. Die Frau, the woman, but die Frauen, the women. Das Buch and die Bücher. Indefinite articles correspond to the English words a or an, and they're often referred to as ein words because the masculine is ein. So we have for masculine ein, for feminine eine, and for neuter ein. And here we see ein Mann, a man, eine Frau, a woman, and ein Buch, a book. There is no plural form for the indefinite articles. We do not say a book, right, or a books, right? We instead say just books. So plurals appear bare without any sort of article in front of them if they're indefinite. So we'll represent that here in our table with a slash. There's no plural. Now compound nouns are very infamous in German, right? They're a combination of many different nouns all into one word. And they They are very frequent in German. We can combine any nouns together regardless of what gender, so there's no rule there. But there is a rule about how do we find out what gender the final noun is, the final compound noun. So, in order to figure out what gender the compound noun should have, we take the gender of the last word in the compound. For instance, we can have das Haus, the house, and die Aufgabe, the task, and we combine them to get die Hausaufgabe, the homework, and I've taken the gender from die Aufgabe because it's the last component in the compound. Another example, das Haus, the house, und der Schuh, the shoe, combines into der Hausschuh, the slipper, and we've taken the gender from der Schuh, the second portion of the compound, the last portion of the compound. So, in summary, German nouns are always capitalized. They have a gender, which is either masculine, feminine, or neuter. The gender information is encoded in the articles. So we have definite articles, der for masculine, die for feminine, das for neuter, and die is reused for plural. And we have the indefinite articles, ein for masculine, eine for feminine, and ein for neuter with no plural form. And compound nouns take the gender of the last word in the compound. For instance, das Haus and die Aufgabe become die Hausaufgabe. That was nouns and genders in a nutshell. Thank you for watching.